Before the episode starts, I want to let you know about a nice discount code that I've been given by Ample. When you go to the official Ample website and order any product, at checkout, use the code Biohacker15. That's the word Biohacker with the numbers 15, and you'll get a nice discount on your product. Plus, for the month of April 2018, I've been given the chance to give away a 30-day supply of Ample to a lucky winner. To qualify, you need to be based in the US so it can be shipped to you. Plus, I need you to go to the Connor Young episode page on biohackerslab.com. If you can't find it, just Google it and you'll be able to find it. And when you're on the episode page, just scroll to the bottom and leave a comment. If you get a friend to leave a comment too, and they mention you, then both of you stand a chance of winning a 30-day supply of Ample. Best of luck to both of you. Hello everyone and welcome to Biohackers Lab. I'm your host, Gary Kerwin, and on today's episode I have Connor Young. Connor is the inventor and CEO of Ample Foods that makes different meal replacements like Ample K ketogenic meal replacement. He has a degree in biology, has run a CrossFit gym, been a medical device sales rep, and been involved in a physical therapy startup company. Connor, thanks so much for coming on to today. Thanks
so much, Gary. Appreciate it.
No problem. So I've tried your product, one of your product ranges, which is Ample K, the one I introduced there. I was lucky enough to get sent some, and that's how I first learned about your product and been listening to some of the podcast episodes you've done elsewhere too. And I think it's great because you're going to be the first person I'm going to get to talk about food science and what goes into making, as you advertise on the leaflet, a real food ingredients compared to, I guess, non-real food ingredients. So I think we're going to be educating myself and others today exactly what goes into meal replacements.
Perfect. I'm happy to.
So I'd like to start off just with a general brief story behind you getting into meal replacements. Like why meal replacements?
Sure. So as you had alluded to with my background, I'm a little bit of a bio nerd. I decided pretty early on I wanted to be in the business of health, in whatever context that meant. So, I majored in biology. I got into this whole CrossFit thing early. And then, I was doing CrossFit gym plus, selling medical devices. And this is sort of, in my mind, the difference between proactive and reactive healthcare. And I by far preferred the proactive. It just seemed like a lot more of efficient and an effective way to do healthcare. And so I wanted to do a company in that. So I made my physical therapy, company, and unfortunately that flopped. It was basically a physical therapy patient engagement platform, a startup in Silicon Valley. But being then in Silicon Valley, moving from Minneapolis to San Francisco, I was living in this, I guess you could say it kind of felt like a nerd frat house. There were about 50 people living in this house and mostly in their mid to late 20s, people who had a few years of experience outside of school, and they're all trying to make it in San Francisco, where rent prices are off the roof, off the chain. It's just ridiculous. And so, but wanted a kind of a good community. Now, I was the sort of the health expert of the group there. And, what was interesting is, up until this point, I had read several hundred, clinical journals on nutrition. And I was still a CrossFit coach. I was still, very much into nutrition. And so they would ask me, "Okay, Connor, how do I make this whole nutrition thing work when I'm working literally 12 hours a day or more?" And I was like, "Well, here's how you could cook your food." And they're like, "Well, I understand that it could. I understand that theoretically making your Brussels sprouts and grass-fed beef might be better than what I'm having, for lunch, but I'm still not going to do it. So could you make something that's better?" There's another product that came out that actually made my friend, it was another meal replacement, and it actually made him not feel well, like SIBO, like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And he was this one who specifically asked me, Connor, could you make a product that just immediately solves my need for fuel in the middle of the day when I have a bunch of things going on, but like optimally so, like not just kind of quenches hunger, but also is the best for me. And it took a few months actually for me to kind of get around to the idea, because honestly, I didn't trust food companies at that time. I kind of saw most food companies as effectively just marketing, without real substance. And I didn't want to be like one of them, until I realized, well, I don't have to. So why not just, try to start something that is in my mind, the best, packaged food you could make, while at the same time knowing that real food, like real whole foods, is likely best. And I have no qualms about that. I mean, if someone is having a great high quality diet that they're making themselves, then there may be no need for Ample. But if someone is having those difficulties and saying, hey, in the middle of the day, I'm choosing between I don't know, X or Y, like a lot of times it's not even fast food that people are like deciding between. It's even just subpar snacks, or this thing with bread in it, and I just don't want the bread or whatever. So like, how do I make something that's choose between subpar options, or in this case, have an Ample? And so that's kind of where the ideas came from. And I started it. I was literally just mixing powders in my house, giving them to Zoli was his name, and basically just gave them to him. And he's like, "This is fantastic. It solves my problem." And over the course of the next few months, I got the product to the point where it tasted really, really good. And that's where I was like, all right, well, I think we have a potential business opportunity here. So that's kind of where I ran an Indiegogo campaign, and we became the #1 food campaign ever on Indiegogo. And I think the rest kind of grew relatively organically from there.
Cool. So I like it when you were saying about that sort of nerd frat house. That gets me thinking of that TV series Silicon Valley, and there's the incubator.
Yeah.
But you're saying like there's a lot of guys who just get crammed into a house, and they're just typing away at their computers, and there's no time to do anything like cook real food. And this is why there's a demand for things like meal replacements. Say, how do I get quality nutrition as quick as possible?
I think so. The funny thing is, it's like, yes, I agree with that. I will also say that the use case that I mentioned is a pretty niche use case. There's not a lot of nerd frat houses in the world, but I will say that like, since starting this business, I realized there were so many other use cases that people were kind of gravitating towards. Like, I have a few friends who are residents, medical residents, and they're like, I have no time in the middle of the day to like have actual food, even though I'm a doctor. I've got a lot of stuff going on. People in finance, people in sales, where they're always, in the car. And it's just, I think that there are a decent amount of use cases in which, unfortunately, the amount of healthy foods that are available to us, at any given moment, if for instance, someone's traveling on a plane, and in an airport, they have literally just endless crappy options. And especially as well, and this is one of the reasons why I created the keto product, is the fact that we're living in a very non-keto world, and yet a lot of people choose to be keto. So how do you do keto when you're on the run? Mm. And so the use cases here are unfortunately endless, because it is difficult to actually have these diets that require a degree of structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I would agree with you. When you are on the move and you break your environment where you can source foods like you normally could, you end up making potentially poor food choices just because you need food, or your family or your kids or something. No, I can understand loads of different situations where you could benefit from something like this. But what I'd like to find out too is, so getting into big food in a way, people talk about big pharma, big food. You've entered that world by making a food product. So what have you learned about the food industry and the standards and the practices that have gone into making meal replacements before you came in?
Yeah. There's two two sides of this coin. I want to talk about, I'll talk about how it's not as screwed up and then how it is screwed up. First of all, is the fact that it's not as screwed up. I think I have a little bit more empathy for food companies now. I feel like beforehand, I was a crusader who was just like, oh, you have, extra sugar in your product. You're a terrible human being. Why would you ever do that? You're poisoning, everyone. Or, I'd say sugar. It could be any sort of ingredient that I deem as not good. But now kind of being there, I'm like, I can see why someone would do that because in reality, a lot of people are actually asking for it. It's not like, everyone doesn't want to not, no sugar. It's whether it's fortunate or not. The funny thing is that like people still, the consumers at large, still ultimately just want a product that tastes good. And if it can make them like psychologically feel like they're doing the right thing, they will. And so this is why a lot of companies get, I think, tempted to kind of go down that route of like, cutting corners, because they're like, well, I'm not even if I take the higher track, like, who's going to see it? I don't know, I don't know who's like, they're saying like, I don't get any benefit for doing any extra work. So why do the extra work? And I understand that like viewpoint. It's just not mine. I feel like even if a customer isn't as educated, they should still have the best quality, food. It's like, even if a customer doesn't understand why a car is safe, it doesn't mean that you should make an unsafe car. So I've kind of had that kind of approach to it. I will say though that, when we're talking about the actual quality of the food, to your original question, what have I sort of learned? It's very interesting in the food, ingredient sourcing side of things, where it would be easy to not make a great product. And the one thing is, like, however, I will say that food brands have a lot, I would say, less control than you might expect. I think a lot of times people have the assumption that food brands can just magically like procure an ingredient. And then, so for instance, I will say this, and I'm going to throw ourselves under the bus here. In Ample K, we have a thing called, we have tapioca dextrin in Ample K. Tapioca dextrin is a starch. And so someone might be like, well, Connor, why are you putting tapioca dextrin in there? What, are you an idiot? And it's like, no, not, well, I mean, maybe I'm an idiot, but in this case, it's because you kind of don't have a choice. It's because literally, we, the brands, are actually customers of these ingredient companies. And the problem is like, if an ingredient doesn't exist, then we can't put it on our product. And so we either have to create it ourselves or in conjunction with the ingredient suppliers, or we just pass and we're just not going to have that ingredient in there. And I know I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, but it's been very interesting to see the actual choices that ingredient that brands have. And in some cases they're fine, but in some cases, and especially when it comes to lipids, to fats, the ingredient choices that we have aren't all that good yet. And so that's kind of where we as a company have been spending a lot of our R&D resources to help the food industry, and specifically our suppliers, level up their games so that they can make higher quality lipids for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So, I've had two other sort of, what am I going to say? They're not startups because they're already existing, but two other supplement companies called Natural Stacks and Human now. They're rebranded. And so Humans are out of San Francisco too, and Natural Stacks, I think, down in Austin, Texas. But what I liked about those two companies is that they're trying to disrupt the supplement world by doing open source supplements. So they're trying to educate people about the whole supply chain. And I'm guessing that's what you've learned about the supply chain of how do you source it? Once you've sourced it, how is it shipped? Once it's shipped and it goes to the manufacturing plant, how is it manufactured? How are you guaranteed that the manufacturer is actually going to make the product that you want to make? These are the kind of things that you're also learning as you try and make the highest quality product?
100%. I mean, I think one of the things is like you can choose to be a brand. Like, if you're a food company and you have a product on the shelf or on a website like ours, right? So Ample K, you could either choose to be a brand, like exclusively a brand, and not really get much into the product, and to have someone else formulate your product, have someone else do the kind of the ingredient sourcing and say, hey, you know what? I really don't care. I want a protein powder and I want it to taste good. So here's my, and I only have two rules. One is that it's got to be, let's say, non-GMO, and the other one's that it can't have less than, more than 10 grams of sugar or whatever. And then someone else just kind of does it. And then you get the product, then you market the product. And frankly, that's a lot of food companies, and especially in the supplement world, that is a ton of supplements, because supplements, a lot of times are simply marketing companies and saying, someone else just make me a product that I can sell. Whereas I think, and I've talked to Jeff at Human as well. Actually, Jeff and I used to work we literally used to work in the same office, Jeff at Human. And so we've talked, quite at length about the sort of the supply chain, like you're talking about. And if you decide to get into that world, it is harder for sure, but it also means that you, at the end of the day, have a product that can actually stand apart because you're actually doing the work to make it somewhat different. You're not just taking the off the shelf ingredients, and that's kind of where I'd like us to play, because otherwise, what's the point of just taking a bunch of ingredients that people have already figured out how to use and doing no innovation? Like, where's the kind of the progress in that?
And so that's sort of your unique selling point, is that you're trying to help make higher quality ingredients to make, as you said, the best product that you can for meal replacements, because a meal replacement is just there to try replace a real food meal. And at the end of the day, real food always trumps meal replacements generally, as long as your real food is high quality. But at least in this case here, as a consumer, that's always the questions that I would have in my mind, is that, okay, is it nutritious? And then are there funky ingredients in this that I need to be aware of? And maybe if we could then move into sort of like some of the ingredient part of things, so the food science and some of the problems that you've been solving. So the big one I did when I did the review on Ample, so first one, taste-wise, you guys have done well. Ample K does taste great. But then the biggest question I got out of that was about the oxidized fat issue, because it's Ample K, it's ketogenic, so it's got more fats in it. But now, how do you make powdered fat without oxidizing the fat?
Yeah. So the way that you do that is actually effectively by putting in vitamin E. So vitamin E is called alpha tocopherol. Although they would just call mixed tocopherols is what they kind of say. But effectively, if you while you're spray drying, so the way that you do this is, well, first of all, I'll say that the oxidation process really only is likely with the monounsaturated fats. Things like coconut oil and MCT oil are probably not going to get oxidized because they don't really have any, because they're fully loaded with hydrogens anyway. But the macadamia and the chia seed do have a potential for that. And so the way that you fix that is by as you're spraying these oils onto the kind of solid part, which is in some cases a fiber, in some cases a carb, and we're actually working on right now by spraying fat onto protein, which would basically mean that you don't have any excess carbs for your if you want to have fat in your product, but the fat, of course, has to be still powder, then if you spray it onto protein, then it's actually, you don't have any extra carb that you don't want. So that would be a huge win for us, and we're working on that right now.
Is that going to be a breakthrough then, I guess, in the food science?
I think it will. I haven't seen anyone else who's done it. At least not without extra, like you could, but then you have a lot of extra artificial ingredients that you have to put in as well. Mm-hmm. But we're working on doing it in a natural way where it doesn't require extra kind of, emulsifiers or binders or whatever, like extra artificial ingredients. And I think we're close. But of course, in the food science world or the food world, close can mean several months away still.
Yeah. So with the oxidized, it sounds like it's highly unlikely unless it's one of the monounsaturated ones.
Correct.
And that you're trying to figure out ways of binding it to other ingredients to make it more stable, is it? Or
well, I messed up by kind of I think I confused people. The reason you actually have to, so every single fat is, for the most part, it's liquid at room temperature. And so to make it a powder, you have to have something that can carry it as a powder. And so the traditional food industry way of doing it is to say, all right, for every 1 part, let's say coconut oil, we're going to have 1 part GMO corn maltodextrin. Now that would be the traditional way to do it. But unfortunately, of course, if you don't want GMOs, that's not good. If you don't want corn, that's also not good. And that by definition means that you have 1 part carb to every 1 part fat. So for keto, it's just impossible. You could never be keto while having that. So what we've been able to do is, first of all, work with ingredient suppliers to find out ways to make it much more fat for every carbohydrate, and potentially to have this ingredient, instead of just carbs, be something different. One is fiber, which wouldn't increase the glycemic index at all, or protein, which wouldn't increase any carbs at all. And so that's kind of what I was saying, and that's on one side of things. Now, in the process of making of spray drying, though, it does have to be heated a little bit. And so the question is, well, how do you heat something without having it oxidized? And that's where the vitamin E and the tocopherols. And by simply putting vitamin E in there, then you're able to make sure that it doesn't oxidize the macadamia or the chia seed. And you can test this by peroxide value, or simply by tasting. I mean, humans can just taste very easily if something's oxidized, and so you can know pretty quickly if something's oxidized. And suffice it to say, if you thought it tasted halfway decent, then it's quite likely it's not oxidized.
Okay, great. Well, like you said, that was definitely one of the top questions, was concern about damaging the healthy fats, and consuming that. So that's already interesting. Just how the issue that happens in the food industry of how do you take fat and then make it into powdered, or to make a product. And when you brought up GMO and corn, because you don't use any genetically modified or corn-based products, do you, in your product?
Correct.
Okay, great. Because a lot of people, they when you are on that health route and you're learning about health, you do realize, like, actually, I don't want GMO. I want more natural foods that aren't being played with too much. So I'd also like to know then, do you have any sort of like MSG in your product at all also too? There's nothing like that there. There's no hidden. A lot of people are always concerned that MSG has been labeled in multiple names and it gets hidden on labels. But it's not hidden in your product some way to make it more addictive or palatable.
No. Trust me, I wish Ample was super addictive. Some people do find it addictive, but in a different way. Not in like my glutamate receptors are being played with type of way, but
Okay, good to know. No, it's just again, that's another thing that commonly happens with processed foods, where and quick convenient foods is that something like that is added in there to make people want to have it, and they don't know why. I'd also like to find out then with the sweeteners that you've used in the product to make it sweeter. You've got, I saw there was honey and stevia extract, and then monk fruit. Are those your two or your three main go-to sweeteners for the product?
Yes. Yeah, and the interesting thing is, so both of those, so stevia and monk fruit are natural sweeteners, and most people actually don't have much of an issue with them. I would say that some people complain about stevia because they don't like the stevia taste. Although I think most people who don't like the stevia taste are used to, I guess they're used to products that overdo stevia. It's very easy to overdo it. Because you're measuring these in milligrams here, because stevia is so powerful. If you have, for instance, 20 milligrams in a product, that might be too powerful for something. So we have several times less than that. And so similarly, monk fruit also can have some weird aftertaste. But what's interesting is that we've kind of discovered that the synergy between monk fruit and stevia and honey together makes it such that it kind of has this sweet taste, and it's kind of like a synergistic relationship where it's not like 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It's more like 1 + 1 + 1 = 6. So therefore, we can have half as much of each of them as we would have otherwise.
So this is how you've managed to keep the net carbs down and not, but still maintain that sweetness factor, which you said is so important in the food industry to make someone want to keep buying a product.
Well, yeah, effectively, it's if someone doesn't like what they're tasting, I think you have to be really, really hardcore from a nutrition standpoint to not like what you're eating and then still continue to buy it and eat it every day. But so like, as you could make something as healthy as you want, but if no one eats it, then it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that's kind of what the goal is here. And that's why we've been able to kind of formulate, especially for Ample K, having it, pretty decently sweet while only having, less than 2 grams of honey per serving, which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And I will admit, when I did my review of Ample K on the YouTube video, that was actually as I just come off my carnivore diet experiment where I was very strict for only eating meat for 30 days. And having your Ample K, I said how it was a bit like having a dessert. It was so not in a bad way that I was thinking it's overloaded with sugar, but just comparing it to other food groups, you can actually taste that it was nice, it was palatable. And so I just thought, when you were talking earlier about where people could use it, and I just thought of it as another way where people might be going ketogenic or low carb for the first time, and they're missing the carb feeling. And as a transitional food too, you could use the Ample K because it gives you that brain effect of like, oh, I'm having something sweet in a way. And I just thought, I don't know if anyone's ever said that or come across that in your market research to say, could you use Ample K as a transition food when you're struggling to come off carbs?
I know that we have done some interesting, like, I think we still need a little bit more data here. Frankly, the product only got released in the end of January, so there's only a couple of months worth of real data here. But yeah, that is something interesting that we're looking at, because people's taste palette changes after they go keto, and so it's interesting to see how much sweetness someone actually wants, either when they're in a ketogenic state already, or whether it had changed, from previously. And so it's kind of hard actually to kind of formulate something. This is a debate that we have internally quite often. How sweet do we make it? Because we could make it more, or we could make it less, without really changing the nutrition profile much at all. And the question is well, where do we go? Do we go to more of the like the people who are transitioning more, who actually want it sweeter, or do we want it potentially more for the people who are already kind of in a ketogenic state and actually don't want something keto? But then, of course, you ask the question: well, someone who's been keto for a while, do they miss a sweet taste? So it's at the moment no clue. So we'll figure that out probably over the next several months.
Yeah, no, and again, I'm not putting any pressure. I just wanted to give you some feedback there, saying how it is nice. It wasn't a bad sweetness too, and it is so true what you said there. I can remember when I used to eat a lot more carbs, or even sweeter goods, that my palate, my taste buds have definitely changed when you end up restricting that food out of your dietary habits. And so things that maybe weren't as sweet before will maybe give you a heightened sense because you're more aware of it now. And yeah, that's an interesting thing you said there. As a company, how do you manage that? Because that's so wide, so many different taste bud variations you have to deal with.
Yeah, well, that's hard. What we've done in the past is what we do is just effectively surveys. We say, okay, so where do people see it? But then you also ideally try to map them in terms of your target demographic. And you're like, well, okay, so which customers are you trying to get? And which customers are you trying to keep? And sometimes those are two different questions. So this is something that we have internally, and unfortunately it requires a little bit more navel gazing than I wish. I wish there was just a clear-cut, data-driven answer for this. I'm not sure we've found the answer. And who knows, maybe at some point we make just multiple products, right? We make ketogenic, sweeter tasting, and then we make another one that just tastes very, very minimal. I think, at some point we'll likely have the resources to do multiple flavors. At the moment we've been, as a brand and as a company, my vision has been to primarily focus on the nutritional aspects of each particular food. And that's why we make a different version versus the taste. But, we're all human, and we do want some variety in our diets. Even if we're having one of these every day, we're going to get sick of it at some point. So probably making a couple of flavors, but that's sort of in the later type of time frames. So I don't want people to kind of get their hopes up that 2 weeks we'll have another flavor.
So when you brought up your other options there, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the Ample Care one, but you, as a company, you started off with Ample was the first one. But when I was looking at the ingredient list online there, is it that you've your regular Ample, your vegan option, and Ample K, they're all low carb, are they?
I guess low to a certain extent. It's low to it's certainly lower than the FDA would kind of consider. But, for a keto person, Ample Original is still way too high carb. So for instance, Ample Original has 16 net carbs in it, for a 400 calorie version. Now that's too high for a keto person. But, for a person who's just saying, hey, I want a healthy meal replacement where I have, a decent amount of, protein, a decent amount of healthy fats, and not too much carbs, and a decent amount of fiber, then this certainly fits the mark. One of my philosophies though as well is the fact that not all nutrition not all people are created equal when it comes to our different dietary needs. Where my perfect diet might not be keto, while yours might be. And the vision for the company is that at some point we have a slew of several different products that can kind of optimally fuel a particular lifestyle that people either know is good for them, or maybe potentially that we help them find out what is best for them and then provide the product for that. If we can potentially be part of the solution, even from a thought leadership perspective, that'd be fantastic as well. So, this is the sort of first step with our Ample Original, Ample, vegan, which is the vegan or vegetarian version, and then Ample K. And, after that, we're going to be growing and kind of getting a lot of data on these three versions before, making other product expansions.
Well, what you're talking about there is just biohack, N=1 stuff, where at the end of the day, we're all our own physiology, our own experiments, and we all make informed consent decisions about which path we want to take in life. And food is the big one. Everyone decides what kind of food choices they want to make. And I like it that you're trying to assist people with their personal dietary preferences, and just making sure that they get enough nutrition out of whatever preference they're choosing in that case. So that's a good philosophy for the company to have there. So we talked about the fats and the sweeteners. I just want to ask you also about the protein that you put into the product. So how come you decided to go with pea protein? Because it's not just pea you put in there, you also put in grass-fed whey. So why did you add in pea?
A couple of reasons. One, because first of all, I want to have a like, I understand that there's okay. Well, first of all, the way that you rate protein in terms of its completeness is by a thing called PDCAS. And some people can just look directly at the amino acid profile, but PDCAS, I think it stands for protein digestibility, composite amino acid score, something like that. And that, if it's like exactly 1, then it means it's like a full complete protein. If it's less than 1, it means it's incomplete. So, first of all, I'll say that, egg protein, soy protein, whey protein actually all have have PDCAS of 1. Pea does not. Pea is an incomplete, protein. The thing though that pea does have is, from a texture point of view, it actually allows us to have so it still does provide amino acids while actually being able to provide a little bit of a thicker texture. And that is actually important for the satiety aspect of things. Because one thing as we're thinking about isn't that, hey, it has the nutrition, it's got the calories, but it also has to make you feel like you're full. If that makes sense. Because otherwise your stomach isn't going to tell you, hey, I'm done eating. I can stop. You're just going to drink it. It's going to go down like water, and you're going to, in 5 seconds, want to have more food. And so because this pea protein actually has a little bit of a thicker consistency, it allows it to kind of sit in the stomach for just a little bit, just enough time that it, sends, the proprioception of your stomach says, hey, brain, we're full now. We can stop eating. So that's kind of the reason why we put pea into the product.
Okay, yes. And that is very true. If I have a shake, I want it to be thick, not just water. Otherwise, it doesn't make you feel full. You have to drink a lot of water to make yourself feel full.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so that's one of the benefits
from your stomach very quickly. So it's like, as soon as it's done, you're going to be like, okay, well, now where's the food?
And that's what I also found interesting when I had the product, and because you just make it with water and you just shake it, and it was very thick and creamy. And I was like, wow, that's amazing that I could do that just with water without even adding milk to this product. It was incredible. So you've done very well on making it a thick feel.
Well, we have 2 fantastic food scientists on the team who, we're so lucky to have them. I got only so far with my initial version in my kitchen. But, there's 2 people, Julie and Stephanie, on the team. Julie is like, she's worked for she's been a leader in the food industry for a long time. And I think what's fun is that, like, for both of them, they enjoy kind of being being involved in a company who's not just trying to fake healthy, but is trying to actually make something healthy. And that is actually a very interesting problem for a food scientist who a lot of times are only concerned with making something taste good. But in this case, it's a much harder challenge to say, okay, well, let's make it taste good. But also here's your other constraints that you have to work in. You have a sandbox that's very small now that you can only play with these few things, and you can't play with sugar, and you can't play with, MSG like you're talking about. And that's kind of one thing that's very exciting for them, in fact.
Yeah, so that they get to be mad chemists and really push the boundaries. And as you said, try figure out new ways of doing things too, because that's you're trying to make a healthier product and disrupt the market, from what I can hear. Yeah. Cool. So do you have any other sort of tips if someone does have an ampoule that you would suggest to get the most out of it, the best way to make it, or yeah.
Totally. So, okay, so we have, once again, 3 versions. I will say Ample K tastes good pretty much as it is. I'm very happy with the flavor of Ample K. I will say, however, that some people actually, you know what, here, can I just pause and just say, I'm not even sure if I've given the elevator speech on any of these things yet. I will say that they have protein, fat, carbs, in some cases in Ample K, very low carbs, probiotics, prebiotics, greens, and they're 400 or 600 calorie meals, and they come in powder, but they come in a single serve bottle. So all you have to do is just put water in it, shake it up, and drink. I only say this for the people who are not watching the YouTube version of this. If you're on audio, what I'm holding now is just a single serving bottle. It's like a 16-ounce bottle, and it comes halfway, partially filled with powder, and you put the water in and then you shake it up and drink. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because, it gives you a lighter type of thing, makes us, shipping costs much less, i.e. costs less for you to buy. And then secondly, it's because you can travel with it. Don't have to worry about TSA or anything like that. And then thirdly, it allows you to customize it if you want to. And that's where some people like to potentially fill with different types of milks. So for instance, Ample Original tastes fantastic with almond milk, coconut too, but almond milk is phenomenal with Ample Original. But for Ample K, I would say that water should be fine. If you want even richer and creamier, then yes, add some milk, but of course be very cognizant of which milk you're adding. Otherwise, if you're actually on a ketogenic diet and you add, regular dairy milk, you're going to throw yourself out of keto because you'll just have too much sugar with the milk itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I would suggest. I would also suggest flipping it over, tapping it, and then kind of just loosening up the powder just so that you can kind of avoid the clumps. It doesn't clump up that much if you kind of use that as a precaution, and sometimes it can be very, very smooth. So yeah, I don't know if that's what.
Yeah, they did, because so people listening to this, that you can't, if you do have any other dietary restrictions, or you want to play around and hack with your food a little bit, you can add some of the other kind of milks, as you said. And almonds are good one. I've never tried. I know my wife particularly likes the nut buttermilks, and but so that would be an interesting one.
I will say some people have actually tried it with cold brew coffee, and they really enjoy that taste as well.
Wow. Okay, so mixing cold brew coffee with your which one, Ample or Ample K? Have you
actually both?
Okay.
Specifically Ample K because it's a little bit creamier tasting, and so therefore the cold brew plus the creamy tasting can kind of feel like it's literally just like a latte.
That's so California. I'm going to say that.
California. So,
yeah.
Warning: if you're not in California, I'm not sure if that's you may be ridiculed. But it's okay. You can either do that or avocado toast.
I'm just thinking of people now going down to Whole Foods, and they're getting their cold brews, and you could just be mixing the two together. That would be a great food experiment. Connor, what are the best ways for people to keep in touch with you or the company? Do you have any official websites and social links you want to share at this point?
Yeah. So our website is www.amplemeal.com. Just ample and then meal.com. And then all of our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's just at Ample Meal, AMPLE, MEAL. So that's how you get in touch with all of us. If you want to email me directly, I'm just Connor@amplemeal.com. Pretty simple, just first name, then Ample Meal. That's it. I would say that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
And so you're okay if someone has a question about some of the ingredients or factors, that they can use that email address to ask you?
Yeah, go for it. Okay. I might be a little bit slow. If you want a faster answer, however, I would say actually help@amplemeal.com is answers that have been vetted by me, and they're way quicker at it. So the customer support, we have Troy and Michelle, and they're kick-ass customer support people, and they can get back to someone very, very quickly.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the education today in the world of processing food and how you actually make something powdered. I found it really informative. So again, thank you so much for coming on to today.
Thanks so much, Gary.